We are on day 27 of the government shutdown, and there is no resolution in sight to this crisis. The House hasn't voted since September 19th. That is 38 days, Jake. The Senate, meanwhile, is spinning its wheels on nominations and doomed to fail funding votes that aren't moving the needle. It's hard to understand how we are going to get out of this mess. Good morning, I'm Anna Palmer.
And I'm Jake Sherman.
And welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punchbowl News. It's Monday, October 27th, 2025. Let's get into the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, the latest on the government shutdown. Number two, Jeffries heads to Illinois. And number three, senators appeal to SCOTUS on Trump tariffs. All right, Jake, let's get into it. We are on day 27 of the government shutdown, and there is no resolution in sight to this crisis. The House hasn't voted since September 19th. That is 38 days, Jake. The Senate, meanwhile, is spinning its wheels on nominations and doomed to fail funding votes that aren't moving the needle. It's hard to understand how we are going to get out of this mess.
No, I don't know. People ask me all the time. I don't know. I just don't know. I would like to think that Thanksgiving, as far as it is away, is going to focus the mind, but I just don't know. The interesting thing, a couple interesting things to me, President Trump is in Asia. Second foreign trip since the shutdown. That's not a criticism. It's just a note that he's not in D.C. So they didn't get his attention last week, Democrats, when he was in Washington. He's not going to be back until later in the week, Thursday, Friday, I think, something like that. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers missed a full paycheck last week. And air traffic controllers are already dealing with staffing shortages, leading to delays at major hubs, and they'll miss a paycheck this week. And I thought it was interesting, if you look at across the country, the SNAP benefits, which are going to end, they're going to be frozen come November 1st. They were on the front page. That was on the front page of a number of Sunday newspapers. To the extent people still read Sunday newspapers, they will see.
Which we hope they do. We encourage them to.
I encourage everyone to do it, either in print or in online, or however you want to consume your news. But the Shreveport paper, Mike Johnson's hometown paper, the New Orleans Times-Picayune, the Daily News, the Utica Observer-Dispatch, all these newspapers across the country are talking about the SNAP benefits. And I'll just throw it over to you in a second. But one thing that is going to happen this week, we think, is that these rifle shot bills, these individual bills that would open up parts of the government, either funding SNAP or paying air traffic controllers, they might get up in the Senate this week. The White House has kind of turned against them in my conversations with them. But Mike Johnson would be, if the Senate does pass bills to open parts of the government or fund parts of the government, that would present an interesting situation for Mike Johnson. He would probably have to bring the House back, depending on what kind of bill it is. Listen, Anna, 38 days out of session in the middle of a shutdown, in the middle of a congressional session. I keep telling our team, this is time committees are not going to get back. I mean, it's stunning to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things are really important here. One, we are very quickly approaching that November 1st date that Democrats really had as their kind of marker, saying we need to get something done by November 1st. That is when all these rate increases, notices are going to be going out. We are approaching that, Jake, right? What happens when and if we move past this week and all of a sudden the kind of market forcing mechanism that Democrats said was going to be the thing, the date, the timeline, and they blow past it. At that time, do Democrats say, okay, it's time to just move forward, and we're not going to get what we want, just like Republicans didn't get what they wanted in 2013. They didn't get what they wanted in 2018, 2019 in government shutdowns. And I think the second thing that's really important here is, and I think we pointed out this morning, is these SNAP benefits, these paychecks that are going to be, getting there. Someone sent me something, about a ground stop at one of the biggest, airports yesterday because of traffic issues at the airports. I mean, these are starting to really impact people. And not that they haven't been for the past couple of weeks, but we're starting to see it kind of really acutely here. What happens? I think these kind of rifle shot bills are going to be an interesting test for Democrats, right? Are they really going to vote against military pay again? Are they going to vote against air traffic control pay? Or is it just at some point, how do Democrats get themselves out of this position they find themselves in? Last week, the big call to arms was, we need Donald Trump to engage. Well, guess what? Donald Trump said, nope, see ya. And, I'm going to let Republicans in Congress deal with this, and I'm heading to Asia. He was unwilling to have that kind of moment with the leadership in the Democratic Party. What is their next ask?
Yeah, I find it, to your earlier point, I find it hard to believe that people would vote against the air traffic control pay thing. You had Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff vote for funding or for paying federal workers last week. I think it's going to be difficult, especially as air traffic controllers are not getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's going to be very difficult to see how they vote against that.
All right, Jake, let's move on to the number 2 story of the morning. We've got some news here. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is in Illinois this morning, meeting with state Democratic lawmakers to urge them to consider a mid-decade redistricting. This, of course, comes as the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus and Black members from the state's congressional delegation have been wary, to say the least, and saying that they don't want to move ahead with any mid-decade redistricting. But Jeffries is trying to change that.
Yes, he is. This is big news. So Jeffries wants them to redistrict in Illinois. He would gain them a seat. The Illinois Senate Black Caucus, via its chair, State Senator Willie Preston, issued a public warning to Jeffries last week that it won't support a map that dilutes black voting populations, in historically black districts. Preston is interested specifically in this because he's running for Robin Kelly's seat. But Robin Kelly, Danny Davis, and Jonathan Jackson all have these districts that could be impacted. The black vote share could go down theoretically in a redistricting push. Illinois is one of these states where Democrats feel like they could pick up one seat. And Jeffries going to Illinois shows just how important it is to get every state they can for Democrats in redistricting to get these seats to balance out states like Indiana, Missouri, and other states where Republicans are redistricting. Republicans still haven't gone after the big kahuna, the next big kahuna, so to speak, which is Florida, where they think they can get 3 to 5 seats. There will be people who are skeptical about that, and I'm one of them. Not that they won't try, but there are limits to the districts that you could draw, to say the least, in Florida. But it does show Jeffries going to Illinois during the shutdown, not like there's anything to do in Washington, but it shows just how important this is to Democrats.
And a tight timeline here, Jake. The ballot filing deadline closes November 3rd, and the legislature will convene this week for a veto session. All right, let's run to the number 3 story of the morning. More news. We have a newsy Punchbowl News AM.
Yes,
Love
we
to
do.
see it. Senators are appealing to SCOTUS on Trump tariffs ahead of key floor votes. A bipartisan group of senators filed an amicus brief with the Supreme Court over the weekend in support of a lower court ruling that struck down President Donald Trump's expansive global tariffs. The brief comes ahead of oral arguments next month on the Trump administration's effort to invalidate the appeals court's ruling, which found that Trump abused emergency powers to impose the tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. This is all Democrats, with the Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski joining alongside.
Yeah, that's Jeanne Shaheen and Ron Wyden led the group of 36 senators on the brief. They argue that the high court should deny the Trump administration's request to stay the lower court tariffs, which relied in part on the fact that Congress hadn't authorized the tariffs. Remember, tariffs are something that Congress can have a view on and is supposed to put in place, something that we sometimes forget. And it does show the discomfort, but in addition to that, the Senate's going to take some votes this week on tariffs, most likely, which is something we're going to be watching out for.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. If you like the Daily Punch, share it on social media. Tell your friends. It's the best way for folks to find out about us. And of course, you can go deeper on all things Punchbowl News at punchbowl.news. Have a great day and stay safe, everybody.